What if everything you learned about history was a lie? What if an advanced civilization was erased from the record books, its cities buried, its people forgotten, and its very existence scrubbed from every map and textbook on Earth? Millions of people today believe exactly that. They call it Tartaria. And the story of why so many believe it tells us something profound about who we are as human beings. Let us start at the beginning. Not with Tartaria itself, but with something very real. For centuries, European maps carried a vast label stretching across northern and central Asia. The word written across those territories was Tartaria, or sometimes Tataria. It appeared on maps produced by the greatest cartographers of the Renaissance and Enlightenment. It showed up in the writings of Marco Polo, in diplomatic letters from the Vatican, and in the dispatches of European ambassadors. To anyone scrolling through old maps online today, it looks enormous. It looks like an empire. And to the modern eye, one question screams out. Why have we never heard of this place? The answer is actually simple, but it is not satisfying. Tartaria was not the name of a single unified empire. It was a geographic label, a catch-all term that European mapmakers used to describe the vast, poorly understood lands beyond their known borders. The people living in those territories included Mongols, Turkic tribes, Siberian peoples, and dozens of other distinct cultures. Europeans lumped them together under one name because they did not know better, and because the word itself derived from the Tatars, a confederation of nomadic groups who had terrified Europe during the Mongol invasions of the 13th century. Tartaria was a name born from fear and ignorance, not from a unified civilization. But here is where the story gets fascinating. Around 2015 and accelerating through the early 2020s, a wave of online content began reinterpreting this geographic label as proof of something much darker. Accounts on social media and video platforms began claiming that Tartaria was an actual global empire, technologically advanced, architecturally brilliant, and deliberately erased from history by shadowy powers. Photographs of ornate 19th-century buildings in American and European cities were presented as evidence of Tartarian construction. The 1893 Chicago World Fair, with its stunning neoclassical architecture, became a centerpiece of the theory. Proponents asked, who really built these incredible structures? Could ordinary people of that era have done this? The answer they proposed was no. A lost civilization must have built them. And then it was wiped out. This is where we must pause and ask the real question. Not whether Tartaria existed, because historians are clear that it did not exist as a civilization. The real question is why this idea spread so explosively, and why intelligent people found it so compelling. The answer lies deep in human psychology. We are pattern-seeking creatures. Our brains evolved to find meaning in chaos, to detect agency and intention behind events. When we see a grand building, we instinctively feel it must have an equally grand story behind it. When official history seems boring or incomplete, the human mind reaches for something bigger. Conspiracy theories offer a complete narrative. They provide a villain, a hidden truth, and most powerfully, a feeling of special knowledge. To believe in Tartaria is to feel that you see what others cannot. In a world where people feel powerless and lied to by institutions, that feeling is intoxicating. There is also a genuine kernel of legitimate frustration feeding these theories. History, as taught in schools, does ignore enormous amounts of human experience. Indigenous civilizations, lost cultures, the contributions of non-European peoples, these are real gaps in popular historical education. When people sense that history is incomplete, and it is, they are not wrong. But the jump from questioning the mainstream narrative to inventing a secret global empire is where critical thinking must step in. Historians who study actual lost civilizations, like the Indus Valley Civilization, the Bronze Age collapse, or the pre-Columbian cultures of the Americas, use evidence. They use archaeology, linguistics, genetic analysis, and cross-referenced primary sources. The Tartaria theory uses none of these tools. It uses pattern matching on old photographs, misreading of cartographic conventions, and the emotional appeal of a grand hidden secret. The legacy of the Tartaria phenomenon is not entirely negative. It has pushed thousands of people to actually open old maps, to read about Mongol history, to question what they were taught in school. Curiosity, even misdirected curiosity, can be a starting point for real learning. The tragedy is when that curiosity stops at the conspiracy and never reaches the equally astonishing truth. Because the real history of Central Asia, the actual Mongol Empire, the Silk Road civilizations, the Timurid Renaissance, the steppe cultures that shaped Eurasia for thousands of years, that history is more breathtaking than any online fabrication. The lost civilization you are looking for is already there. It is waiting in the real history books. And it does not need to be hidden to be extraordinary. Subscribe to Kadim World for more hidden history.